Happy Saturday morning, wherever you happen to be. Let's look at orc deployment and battle tactics. Thanks to all my patrons, Barian for making all the art for the channel, and for 5% off your order, check out Baron of Dice. Use code MDG at checkout. So what are we looking at here? So here I have two orc armies that I'm going to deploy and think and talk about battle tactics. So let's have a look at what these two armies actually are. On the right, we have Ironjawz. We're going with Ironjawz Brawler, which in this case, of course, is a Kragnos list with Hack and Crew, Reinforced Ardboys, Weird Dub Shaman with Eye for the Fight, with 2 reinforced units of Ragers, and a War Chanter with Trophy Skull. Trophy Skull, I mean, like, I don't know. At this point, the artifacts of power for Ironjawz just aren't really exciting to me. I think that they're a little bit better if you decide to take like a cabbage, like a Maw Crusher. But if you're just rocking with, you know, like some infantry list or like a Kragnos list, there's not really much that I'm feeling for artifacts of power. The Eye for the Fight is good. And then in the other corner, we have a very standard, my sort of default Kruleboyz list. Snatcher Boss with double reinforced Gut Rippers, Vulture Boss with Slippery Scumbag and 3 units of Monster Killers, and then a Swamp Collar Shaman with a Swamp Staff and a reinforced unit of Bold Boys. Not gonna run the Kill Blow this time. So we're gonna we're both 3 drops, right? So we're gonna sort of think about if we had to deploy first or second for each army. So to start, let's just roll a die, and we'll say low is Kruleboyz. Okay, so Kruleboyz deploy first. So if I'm looking, so here are my 3 regiments for Kruleboyz. So when it comes to, first of all, just deciding which army is going to, or like which regiment of yours is going to drop first, I think before we even begin, we have to start asking our opponents questions, right? How many casts are you? Ooh, well, we're 2 casts. Cool. What's your threat range for shooting? 0. What's your threat range for melee? Well, these guys can run and charge, and they also can use Mighty Destroyers. So that's 3 inches for Mighty Destroyers, plus their 4-inch move, plus an auto run 6 is 13, and then they can 3d6 charge. So it's going to be, so the average of a 3d6 charge is 10. So with their 13 move, it's a 23-inch threat range. Right? It's a 23-inch threat range, and that's an average charge roll, right? So it means that if you're 23 inches away, you're prime in danger. So if you wanted to be like, let's say, a 12-inch charge away, you would have to add, let's say, 6 more inches. So, or even 7. So 30 inches, you're perfectly safe, right? And then 23 inches is that charge. So anything between 23 and 30 you're playing with. It's like, okay. And then same thing with the Hack and Crew. So he can go even further, right? He can do 3 inches plus it's 10 inches. Yeah, 10-inch move. But he can't run and charge. So it's 13 again. So it's the same distance, but you don't have to use a command point. So then I say to myself, okay, right? So 2 casts, 23 to 30. I might even write that down on my notebook, right? As I'm talking to my opponent, 23 to 30 inch sort of threat range for melee. Okay, so then we're going to say Kruleboyz is the blue player here. Although I guess the attacker technically would be the red. So that's okay. So we'll put Kruleboyz on the other side of the board. On the attacker side. So that if I'm looking at my Ironjawz opponent here, I have that 23 to 30 inch threat range in my mind. And I'm going to start looking for what that actually looks like on the board. So this is the 23-inch threat range. So it's quite deep, right? And then it's almost impossible for me to be completely safe out of range if they put something dead in the center. So it's a huge threat. So then I have to make a decision of, am I actually going to pile all the way back here? Or am I going to put my stuff sort of front and center? Well, if I'm looking at my 3 regiments and deciding what I want to actually put on the board, this map, so we're playing limited resources, and there's no places of power, if I remember correctly. There's no places of power in this one. So we're going to try to deploy off of the objectives, right? We're not going to try to deploy on the objectives. In fact, let's not make it limited resources. Let's just make it a different map. Limited resources. Let's not make it this one. Let's make it just a nice, even split map. Jeez, what is with this today? Nope. We're not. I thought most of the maps were evenly split. There we go. Yeah, okay. We'll do this one. Feral 4A. And then I have to recall this. Okay. So we do have places of power. So, to be honest, like, this is really tricky because I don't think I want to deploy my Sludge Raker first. I think I want to deploy them last because I'm afraid of what's... I want to see where his stuff goes before, like, I put stuff on the board, right? I'm kind of leaning towards things being over here so I can get off Kronspine, but... Oh, by the way, we're playing Kronspine, and then on the other side we're playing Primal Energy. Not that it really matters, but... this is a tough one because this list is very aggressive, right? Like, it's one of the more aggressive lists that you'll see in this game, right? So, like, deployment's going to matter a lot. So, at this... To be honest, I'm kind of feeling like I just want to deploy my Vulture and these guys because they're definitely going to be, like, snuck out of the way, right? So, like, I think if I'm up against a list that's this aggressive... What I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to create lots of road bumps with things like Slippery Scumbag and then just using my sneak to pull things out of the way. So we're going to start by giving my opponent as little information as possible, and we're just going to deploy all of our Monster-Killas and our Vulture Boss quite aggressively, very far forward on the line in an attempt to pull them out of the way when my opponent comes in. So we're going to go right dead center, right on the right-hand side, like this, and we'll stack up the right-hand side a little bit, almost like misleading my opponent, right? Or maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll actually just take these two side objectives like this and sort of really not dedicate to one side or the other. Right, so this way it's like on turn one, the kill, I'm still sitting up for take the flanks, right? I could still theoretically take up for set up for seize the center. Not that I think that's what I'm going to do. And I still have like my, my shooting in the back. Because the general's Kragnos, so with my Boltboyz are having priority target, I'm thinking that shooting into Kragnos, like this is the general's regiment. So I think the Boltboyz are going to play a big role. If I'm going to kill Kragnos, it's going to be because I'm whittling him down with Boltboyz the whole game. So I kind of want to save these guys for a bit. So I think this is a pretty good first deployment. Again, just because I can move things with sneak, So it's like, sure. Come at me, bro. Okay. My turn. So on the Ironjawz side, these are the 3 regiments right here. 1, 2, and then the War Chanter's all by himself. And so to be honest, I think I might just want to stick the War Chanter over at the place of power. Can I be on the place of power and on the objective? Well, I can't be over the deployment line, obviously. It looks like no. So I'll just sort of firmly... So we're being aggressive. So I'm just going to stick him right on the line. And say that he's within 3 inches of this place of power. Because he's a single drop. So I'm just going to stick him here. Right? And bait this... Well, maybe that's actually a bad play. The Vulture Boss, he goes 12, so that's a pretty fast charge. So maybe I'll stick him as far away from the Vulture Boss as I possibly can while still being within 3 inches, just to make... I don't think the Vulture Boss can really come this way. He'd have to fly over top, so if I'm just positioned a little bit more to the left, right? Like, there's no way he can sneak his base through here. He flies, but it just creates like an obstacle, right? It means that the kill boss will have to, like, finish his move over here, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit trickier, or at least that's my reasoning behind it. But yeah, because I think the War Chanter using the place of power at the very beginning to pump his prayer so that he can then use it with its powered up version, right? I think that's probably okay. The Weird Knob Shaman is going to be in the middle with all the Ardboys. And also, just in terms of drops, it's just giving very, very little information. Right? It's like, here's this guy off to the side that's in an annoying spot who's definitely taking advantage of the place of power. right? And then he's going to like move and go wherever it is that he's going to go. He also has the trophy skull, so if not that he'll survive, but he can sort of keep this objective out of the hands of the kill boss if I can plug some ragers there or something, right? So yeah, okay, that seems okay. And also too, don't forget that the Kruleboyz player in this case knows that they're the one that is in control of the first turn, right? So I would like to give my opponent first turn. Like, sitting here as the Kruleboyz player, like, what I want to do is I want the Ironjawz player to go first, and I want him to, like, try to get to me, but fail, and leave things in the middle of the map exposed. Because Ragers, if you can jump on top of Ragers, they die. So that's like a best case scenario for me. Another really good case scenario for me is that the Hack and Crew gets thrown out into, like, in an attempt to get to me, but, you know, with a clever sneak or with a redeploy or you know, a failed charge. I'm hoping that what is this little bar here? Uh-oh, something's happening. Okay. Everything is fine. That's kind of what, like, best case scenario for me. Worst case scenario is I let my opponent go first and I'm going second, and they get right on top of me and kill all my important things, like a Sludge Raker with Ragers, right, or something silly like that. That's like the worst possible thing that could happen. So again, we just have to be careful with our whatevers, with our distances. Okay, so it's our turn again, and so our opponent has committed, the Ironjawz player has committed nothing, right? They've committed nothing. They've given us so little information that at this point I think I'm actually going to deploy my Bolt Boys. So the Bolt Boys can sit as far back as I want them to, because they can move and be snuck. Sorry, they can be snuck. And that's probably what I'm going to do with them. So first turn, as the, like, at this point in deployment, I'm thinking as the Kruleboyz player that I'm going to be using, like, sneak, 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 and probably not getting venom encrusted weapons and probably not getting noisy racket. Like, I'm sort of thinking to myself, like, well, if I'm just going to spam everything at this point, because what I really just need is for some sneaks to go off. Right? So I might skip, sorry, I just said two very contradictory things, but I might skip venom encrusted weapons in order to get, like, lots of sneaks. That's how I think I'm going to beat this Ironjawz player, is by him trying to charge in at me, and then failing. So I think I want to start the game pretty spread out and not committed anywhere, and just make it really difficult for him, because again, I know that I'm going first, or I know that I have control of the first turn, so I know that if it's looking good, I can make him go first. So the Swamp Color Shaman is just going to sit all the way at the back here. Just to be safe, just to make it tough for my opponent to take their first turn. I'm definitely gonna be making room, because at this point, as the Kruleboyz player, I'm thinking I might even be doing something like this and sitting really far in the back. Yeah, I guess another reasonable option is actually to do this. Right? It's like, stick them out right on the line, and I can covering fire, and I can sneak. Right? Yeah, you know what? I kind of like this. I kind of like this. I kind of like this. And then the Shaman by the terrain. On the terrain side. Yeah, okay. Right? And then it's like, well, I'm going to yeet Ragers at you. It's like, well, I'm going to sneak away. Right? Like, I'm just going to sneak away. I like it. I like it. So we're just setting up, like, a wall in front of us to be pulled back wherever our opponent goes. And if they go in multiple places, it's like, well, like, so be it, right? Okay, Ironjawz turn. So now we're sort of like, are we ready to commit our center? Or do we want to... I think we want to save the Ragers to put them in last to really make our... Because, again, the Ironjawz player, we know that our opponent gets to decide who goes first, and we're sort of predicting that we're going to go first. Right? Because it's obviously better for our opponents, right? Oh, what's up going on in Discord? Question about Ironjawz. Shall we? Let's see. I know you don't value brutes that much, but you also don't prefer them with Kragnos. 10 brutes with 3d6 charge sounds pretty good. Well, I don't like brutes because I feel they are too expensive for what you get. I also don't like their hero support. I don't like the Mega Boss, i.e. I period E period. Give me cheaper brutes. And we can talk. So are we ready to commit our center? Or are we looking at our rage? Yeah, we're ready to commit our center. So, of course, we're just going to take our Ardboys and we're going to just slap them down right in the front. We're going to make sure that they're touching on this right objective because we're going to probably have Kragnos or a foot hero, so they're controlling this objective. Yeah, Kragnos is just going to sneak down just probably off to the side of them, actually. They got to be within 6. Because they're going to be bodyguards. So, probably do something a little bit different. Are they within 6 inches? Nope. Is this what we do? Do we just wrap them around him like this? Because all that we really care about is like the first guy getting a charge in, right? So like, let's say that they finish a charge in this formation. Well, they still get a pile in and they still have a 3-inch reach. So it's like guys that are all the way back here are going to be getting into the fight, right? Maybe like this is a little bit too far snaked back. Maybe we just need to be in a little bit of a little bit more piled up in front. Because again, 6 inches away, like, no problem. Right? No problem. Right? See what I'm saying? And they have to be kind of staggered, right? Because they're 32 mil base guys. But that looks pretty good. I like that. Maybe the whole thing just slides over. So Kragnos isn't blocked up so much behind a tree. Because we can do, like, seize the center and stuff if we want. Maybe not tie up Kragnos. Maybe tie up Kragnos a little bit less. Have him a little bit more front and center. Yeah, alright. Me likey. So it's still nice and easy within 6. Well, we're getting a little bit tighter, so we'll pull one back. Cool, so Kragnos is ready. I've definitely shown what side I favor, but the idea here, too, is that because we have Bodyguard with Kragnos and Life Swarm, Kragnos can kind of take a hit, right? He can kind of take a hit, but I want him to be ready to charge into something if he wants to, right? Cool, and then our Hacking Crew, we're just going to stick we don't want him fighting the Vulture. We also don't really want him fighting the Monster Killers, but we would like him maybe to deny this place of power. You know, just to control it. It's an extra unbind. He's not a hero, so that doesn't matter. Or do we throw him at the kill boss? On the kill boss's side. If I put him here, like, at this point I'm telling my opponents put things on the table, and now I'm like, well, if you do let me go first, do you remember that 23 inches? Right? So it's like he's got to stay within Kragnos's aura, which is, I guess, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. Maybe he's... Yeah, I think he's standing on the base, or whatever. Right? So if Kragnos is up here, right, it's like we can only 3d6 charge from within this, but he does get to move 10 inches. Kragnos can't fly. Maybe I'm doing a really bad job by putting him right behind this tree. Maybe he should be like... But then I'm telegraphing, I feel, too much about where he's going to go. Maybe the Ardboys are on the tree side. Right, maybe Kragnos just goes in the middle, and then the Ardboys are like... here-ish. Right, Kragnos is in the open. Or, because, you know, like, the thing, too, is that because I'm dropping all of these things at the same time, right? Like, I can sort of change my mind. Like, I could be like, well, Kragnos is going to go here. And the idea being that he can move up as far as 10 inches. And the Hacken crew can be as far as here. And have a 10.7 or a 10-inch 3d6 charge. And just smash into this Vulture. And then be like, well, do you have... Or even into those Monster Killers, if I wanted them to. Kragnos isn't centered, but he's coming up on the side. But yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's actually still probably bad because he's gonna get stuck up without his bodyguard. We're just gonna stay with what I was thinking before. But then what's our hacking crew gonna do? So then if Kragnos moves 10 inches this direction, right, then it's like we're 3d6 charging from here, so we're coming into the center. I guess that's kind of the plan, right? Like we just keep everything sort of in the center together and throw it in when it needs to go in. Have a whole bunch of charges attempts into the center. Or do we just like unpack as little as possible and receive? Probably that, actually. Okay, so we'll do that, and then it's to our opponent for their last drop. Yeah, this is probably fine. The idea, too, here is that like we're ready with a nice bodyguard. We have 2. If we wanted to seize the center, we could do that fairly easily. Right? We're sort of set up for that. Kragnos isn't heavily committed one side or the other. He could sort of juke left, juke right, and enable the Hacken crew into the kill boss. Right? Or he could do something else. There's also lots of space at the front left for Ragers. And our opponent has to drop their last thing. So, okay. So, if Kragnos moves up 10 inches... So, it's a 23-inch threat. So, it's like we need to be, like, back here to not get tagged on turn 1. So, that's just what we're going to do. We're just going to take our guys and just be like, okay... Are we thinking 3 ranks or 2 ranks? Gonna stagger them, right? Because they're 32mm bases. There it is. Right, 27 inches. So this is quite a big charge. Right? Because it's 10 plus Mighty Destroyers, 13 plus 10 for charges, so it's 23. That's a 7-inch charge. Right, oh, sorry, that's an average charge of 10 inches. So this is 4 inches more. So this is 11-inch charge. Sorry, it's like a 15-inch charge. But you get my point, right? It's like a much harder charge, 5 greater than average. So it's like, okay, that's kind of the best we're going to get, right? So the idea is that we're trying to pull, and then I think at this point we're pretty confident letting the Ironjawz player go first. And whatever happens, we're just going to like pull stuff away and see how they unpack. And then the Ironjawz player is going to want to unpack the castle as little as possible while getting all the points that they want. So probably, to be honest, just moving into the center for Seize the Center and keeping everything pretty reserved back and just saying, like, come into my bodyguard castle, right? Okay, so then last but not least, we got, obviously, our Weird Knob is going to go right in with the gang. You know, to cast our endless spells like Life Swarm and to just be with the Ard boys, right? And so we're going to stick them just right in the middle there. I guess we can measure just to see about the opponent. So we get to go first, which means we get to cast and then move within range. So that's looking pretty good. And then we should probably take this objective. Are Ragers really going to go over here? Yeah, probably. Where'd my other Ragers go? Oh, there they are. And then these guys, probably actually looking at trying to get this Vulture. So we're going to stick them right in here because we want to keep them within range of Kragnos' aura. So when we move everything forward. So we'll probably throw the Hack and Crew out first. These Ragers are probably going to, at some point, have to go this direction. That's one weakness from this Ironjawz list, is that take the flanks is tricky. So on this map, if I'm the Kruleboyz player, so I'm probably letting my opponent go first. And the only thing that really matters is the movement phase. So if it was the movement phase, I'm probably just seizing the center. I'm probably just gonna move these guys 3 inches forward at the start, and then they're gonna go like 7 inches, and they're gonna run. So 5. That's 12 inches altogether. So that should be more than enough for them to like just sort of keep a rough formation and to get within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield. I'll probably eat some shots with Kragnos, right? This little guy's going to run up behind him. I'll probably eat some shots, but I'm hoping that Life Swarm works. And I guess Bodyguard only works against melee attacks. Right? Probably would have like taken another row off Kragnos. Probably would have moved them a little bit differently, right? Because I'm just trying to be quick. And then what's going to happen? 10 inches? So if I wanted, he probably can't even do this because the tree's in the way. So he probably couldn't even do this. So to be honest, what I'm going to do with the Hack and Crew is I'm just going to do the opposite thing. I'm going to sort of keep him in the back, right? And I'm going to measure how far off the kill boss has to go. So the kill boss is going to be 12 inches and then 19 for a 7-inch charge, right? So the Ragers, I think, are going to just move in behind here and wait. And the kill boss is going to do the same thing. He's going to stay tagged on this objective and just sort of taunt this kill boss to come in. And then this little guy, I guess he might not be in the right spot. He generated some prayer points. And then I've spent my auto run probably on the Ardboys. So he just like runs and gets a good run roll and just goes like 10 inches away. So I'm looking now at this guy, and I think that he's probably not positioned very well. Because he's not going to be within range to do anything the next turn. So in hindsight, he probably should have just been like over deployed. Like, because I deployed him first, right? I could have deployed him somewhere like this. Right? Just to be like in the scrum, but sort of far away, right? And then now he could be positioned up like here. Right? Like getting ready to give these Ragers the buff that they need, right? And then these Ragers are probably going to like stay within Kragnos' aura like this. But not really commit anywhere. Right? Just sort of keep back. Maybe even move over this direction, right? Because if they were like positioned like over here or whatever, like maybe they just run, you know, and go like however far they're gonna run up this way, just getting ready to take the flanks. Not that this guy's taking the flanks, so they could also just be kept more reserved in the back, and we're gonna try to go for more fighty stuff, right? If we're gonna take the flanks, it's gonna happen later. Right, so but we do seize the center. We're keeping our castle pretty tight. We're making it hard for our opponent to really get into us in any way. The range on both boys, they'd have to move forward and then stay there, right? So we're also thinking about like, you know, the zoning out terrain and stuff like that, right? So these guys could probably have even moved somewhere like this just to zone out the terrain. We left this open for teleports, but it's not a big concern. I guess what we could have done is we could have taken the Hack and Crew and just moved them over here instead. But the trade-off is that we're definitely out of the aura. It's going to be tough next time to get them out of the aura. So I think that this position, and it makes also, yeah, so I think this position is probably fine. It's too far away for him to really get the charge off, right? So it's like the play for him is to like swoop up, take the flanks, right? And then sit there. So can't overcommit when you're playing an aggressive list like this. Yep. Any other real options for a first turn here? I mean, movement is everything in this game, right? And then I don't think we charge. I think we just sit. Right? And we're like, well, I still control all, you know, like... What map are we even playing? Feral Foray? So I'm just going to take the center and be like, you know, what are you going to do now? Right? Like, are you ready? Because that 23-inch range is still a thing. So it's like, you know, like, what's the plan here? And then as the Kruleboyz player, we're definitely taking the flanks. We're going to, you know, auto run up our sides here. No problem. We're going to be shooting with Bolt Boys. What are we going to be doing with Bolt Boys? So tricky. Do we just throw Monster Killers into them? And just gunk it up? Right? Do we just move like 5 inches up and then just start rolling charge rolls? Right? Maybe these guys could have gone this way instead. 9-inch charge that way. I guess we have to. Right, we just hope for like something to connect so that we can tag these things in combat without Kragnos. Just to gunk it up. Right? These guys are getting priority targets, so they just need to be within 15. So they could probably even like not have to, like, they could just probably move back. Right? And then just like shoot at Kragnos. And then hopefully this would be, that's probably not even best case. Probably just like moving up and getting in the way here is probably good, right? Because... And then we just shoot at Kragnos. Maybe throw out Kronspine. And then I don't know what we do with the guys in the back here. We probably can start moving them up. Probably like this way a little bit. It's so far though, the range. But the ranges are kind of far away now, right? And if they can't move up too close to here... Right? So, like, they have to stay 3 inches away, which means the range is... The charge is still quite far, but we could just, like, back them up a little bit more. Right? We can do some running. Right? And then sort of, like, do some shooting. And then on their turn, we're going to be lifting up our stuff out of the way again. Right? So, what we're pinned here, so it's a little bit more annoying. Yeah, and then we take the flanks, and then we're just still sitting here. It's a game of cat and mouse. It's always fun playing against yourself, right? But yeah, that's kind of the idea, right? Like, that's sort of what I'm thinking here for, you know, the Ironjawz are going to seize the center, but the Kruleboyz are going to take the flanks turn one, and then go from there. Controlling terrain on our opponent's territory is not going to be that hard. Like, we're already kind of set up for that a little bit here. Yeah, very interesting. So now the question is, what happens if we are deploying in reverse? What happens if the Ironjawz player has to deploy first? Is it... I guess I'm kind of curious to see if it will make a difference to me at all. Right, okay, got our 3 regiments pulled out. Okay, so we learned our lesson. And if the Ironjawz player deploys first, I'm looking at the map, I just take this guy, stick him right there. Someplace central, someplace safe, out of the way, right, where his aura is going to have a nice big range, and then we pass the turn. And then I think, because there's so little information, I think essentially what the Kruleboyz player does is deploys as we did the first time. With our... Yeah, that's probably what we do. This is a great first turn deployment for lots of games. If you have your regiment set up like this. It's just a bunch of units that we can move around. Because the Ironjawz player wants the Kruleboyz player to go first this time. Yeah, probably. Okay, next deployment. Probably our Kragnos in the middle again. Just like we did last time. I would wrap around the back though. just to make sure that we're staying nice in that 6-inch range. Yeah, whatever. You get the idea. Got to be bodyguard. I'm kind of thinking that the hacking crew, I'm going to change this in my list right now, but I think the hacking crew just goes with the weird knob. Another thing too with this list that I've been thinking is that it might actually be better with two weird knobs instead, and then they're just both casting spells. Right? Like you're just forecasts. Because manifestations are OP. So the more I think about it, it's like, well, I kind of just want another weird knob instead. Without eye for the fight. What do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think. But if that's the case, it's like, okay, we just have another weird knob. Good. Back to the Kruleboyz player. Yeah. Kragnos and the Ardboys in a regiment, and then the weird knob with Ragers, Hacking Crew in a regiment, and then a weird knob all by himself. Yep. That's right. And then, yeah, over here, we're probably still thinking the same thing, right? We're going to try to get rid of the, just the Swamp Kala Shaman, just down on the ground. And then Bullboys in the front. If the Ironjawz player makes us go first, we can maybe get some shots off. Probably not. We're probably too far away. Well, maybe, because if we're 18 inches from the front line, which is exactly what we should be, but then that means that's exactly 18. Then, if they moved into us with Mighty Destroyers, that's 15, but I don't think that would be within range. But then if they decide to go first, we have our wall. Right? If they trick us and they're like, haha, then I think essentially we deploy the exact same. Because we don't know what our opponent's going to do now as the Kruleboyz player. So we just incentivize them to make us go. We don't want to give them an easy turn one. But then as the Ironjawz player, we are finished. Or this player's finished. So we know we're going to let them go first. So then it's like, well, okay. Get those Ragers in there too. Yeah, I don't know. The War Chanter, it's really like, do you want to have more casts for manifestations? Like, do you want to be able to cast your manifestations more and even like use Hand of Gork? Or do you want to be able to give +1 damage with a prayer to 2 units and really just wreck with damage? This strike first thing with the Ragers is savage. Yeah, it's a tough decision. It's a tough decision. Maybe 1 unit of Ragers on one side and then 1 unit of Ragers on the other side. That Hacking Crew could probably use some help dealing with the Vulture Boss over there if needed. So he can run interference and the Ragers can get set up. Right? Yep, that's the idea. And then I'm thinking everything shifts this direction then this direction, but it's tricky. Yep. So for first turn, I think we make the Kruleboyz go first, and then the Kruleboyz are just gonna take the flanks. Right? They're just gonna run up like this, take the flanks, and probably move forward and shoot. right? Move forward and shoot Kragnos. These guys are going to like run as far forward as they can. These guys are going to run as far forward as they can. We're just setting up speed bumps, right? And then on probably not sneak anywhere. Probably move everything up in the back a little bit, right? Because we have our speed bumps in place, so they have to stop 3 away, right? And so then the question is like, how far of a charge is it if they have to stop 3 away? So like 14 inches, so we could probably even afford to move up a little bit more if we're feeling bold, right? Same thing over here. It's like they have to, you know, these Ragers have to stop 3 away, let's say. So then what's the actual charge range? You know, we're looking at 3d6 charge, so it's 10 inches, you know. That's the idea. By going first, we've definitely put ourselves in a good position on the board for Kruleboyz, but then the Ironjawz player always has that double turn over us, and that's terrifying. That's terrifying. The fact that, like, all of a sudden Kragnos could move forward and be like, oh, I get to do it again, and then move forward again and crash into, like, it's terrifying. We definitely want to be going second if we're Kruleboyz. And then probably not doubling early, like maybe doubling 3 or 4 if we need to, right? But, like, just not letting our opponent have the double over our heads, right? So we got set up our little barriers here on turn 1, did take the flanks, and then it's the Ironjawz player's turn. And yeah, the hacking crew is gonna we could probably also take the flanks, because the hacking crew is coming in just a regular charge here. The Ragers could probably do the same thing. I bet you these guys would be the ones that would move, right? So they're gonna move like 7. I mean, with Mighty Destroyers. So they're set up for a pretty short charge there. And then our center is just gonna move up. Kragnos moves up his 10. Hacking crew's out of range, not that we need it. Probably just go here outside of 3. If I did charge there, these guys go 4 and then they run. So they could probably auto run, right? Just to keep up bodyguard. And then these guys are going to do their thing and come in here and like whatever. Shift around this way, shift around this way. Right, just we're keeping these guys are earmarked. Really? Keep them this way? These Raiders probably could have gone the other way. But nah, we'll keep them here. Yeah, worked out a little bit differently. Right, the Ironjawz player is definitely getting the chance to be more aggressive here. Right, but then some of these things are going to get moved away, right? Like this thing. Like these guys all couldn't be this close. They'd have to be 3 inches away before the charge. And then some things are going to get moved. So then the idea with putting Kragnos here is I'm like, well, what are you going to move? Right? It's probably the Bolt Boys. They're probably going first. And it might be this unit of Monster Killers over here because... I mean, we probably should have seized the center here. Right? Just did that where we just move up into the center and you're like, that's fine. I know you're going to move your stuff. Right? So I'm not prepared, like I'm going to not charge. Right? And then if I do charge, it'll be like Craggy who comes in and then like deletes your unit. So that's probably good. Just like the threat of it and take whatever. And so if we're not, because if we're take the flanks, it's too easily denied on this side. So we'll probably charge in there. He'll probably slippery scumbag his way out of there. Right? Whatever. Yep, that looks okay. So seize the center is always pretty good with Kragnos with a bodyguard unit of our boys. I think take the flanks is a little bit later. And then we'll see what happens here. And then we'll see like about a double and we'll see what happens, right? Because after all, it is a dice game. So deployment and the first move kind of matter, right? But after that, it's like up to the dice. These guys are probably not within 12, right? I probably had to move them a little bit closer to make sure that they stayed within range. Right, I got little auras from here. Right, so everything sort of moves up conservatively. Everything stays within its ranges. The bodyguard is all ready to go. Things are locked and loaded for the next turn. And then Kragnos is just a threat, and the Kruleboyz player is going to be like, well, yeet this, right? And then it's like, okay, I'll charge here, right? Or it's like, try to yeet this, fail, and then successfully yeet this. Cool. I'm just going to go like this and just delete this unit off the table, right? And then I can redeploy into a bodyguard position again if I want to later, right? Because I probably have my... Yep. Maybe, maybe not. Cool, awesome. Well, it was really fun to sit and really think about this. This is the list that I'm playing in my Winter League. So it's because I want to play Kragnos while he's good, even if Ironjawz are good. Just want to play Kragnos for a little bit. See how it goes. Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out the Discord. So many awesome people on the Discord. And if you don't check out the Discord, like, subscribe. Wow.